In this 25th anniversary year of September 11th, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation continues to honor America's heroes. Heroes like Fire Lieutenant Michael Wells, who was inspired by 9/11 to serve his community. After 14 dedicated years of service, he lost his battle with occupational cancer, leaving behind his wife, Katie, and their 3 children. Tunnel to Towers honored Lieutenant Wells by paying off the family's mortgage in recognition of his sacrifices. Donate $11 monthly and amplify your impact with a car or land donation. Go to T2T.org.
He's at war with woke.
Joe Concha
thinks liberals are a joke.
Joe Concha.
This is the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition, sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Here's Joe Concha.
And welcome, everybody, on this Monday night. Boy, what a fun weekend that was. I'm not talking about the Masters or the weather in general, but the Eric Swalwell stuff. Outstanding. All the clips that are now coming through of what an absolute clown this guy was. And I say that in past tense because he's probably going to get thrown out of Congress this week. Already dropped his gubernatorial ambitions in California, where he was the leader among Democrats. He trailed 2 Republicans, but when he's your top choice on the blue team, that is a big problem. But before we get to Swalwell, let's first talk about Zohran Mamdani. Promises made, promises kept, he says. And now he's going to open the first communist grocery store in New York next year. Here is the mayor. Cut 14, go.
During our campaign, we promised New Yorkers that we would create a network of 5 city-owned grocery stores, 1 in each borough. Today, we make good on that promise. I am proud to announce that we will open every single one of these stores by the end of our first term. And the first one will open next year.
Well, well, well. Look at that. So there'll be a store in each of the 5 boroughs. Now, here's the problem that the mayor left out to his utterly ridiculously gullible and stupid supporters. The first grocery store that will open next year is going to be in East Harlem. And that is projected to cost $30 million to build. But Mamdani initially proposed a $70 million budget for all 5 of the stores. So break that down, maybe $14 million per store is the cost he said it would be. And now already this thing is projected to cost $30 million, twice as much. So instead of $70 million for the grocery stores, it's going to go to $150 as far as that. And that, you know how this works, especially around here. It'll be more than $30 million. It'll end up being like $45 million. Times that by 5. Okay. Now we're at a lot of money that New York does not have. Talk about it until I'm blue in the face. People are leaving. They are voting with their feet. Rich people especially are leaving. Because why the hell would you stay here when you're putting more and more money into the system through taxes and getting less and less of a return on investment in terms of quality of life and crime and education, sanitation? So this is so typical. He says it to Cheers. I'm going to open up the first store. I'm going to keep our promise. Except the promise that, oh, yeah, at least for now, it's going to cost twice as much. And then it'll probably end up being 3 times as much because that's just the way it's going to go. And, oh, by the way, these things don't work. There is countless examples of city-run grocery stores that have failed in this country. It's a bad idea. It doesn't work. You can't artificially bring down costs like that without it being passed along to somebody. And these other businesses already just went out of business, like outright. So, okay, you want to go ahead with this? Fine, I guess. But this is of all the promises, this is probably the easiest one for him to accomplish because the whole, free childcare thing throughout New York, that's not in the millions like these stores. That's well into the billions that, again, he does not have. And the only way he's going to be able to get that money is by raising property taxes by double digits. Already have some of the highest property taxes in the country. Yay, New Jersey, where I live, we have the highest. We have that distinction. But New York in the top 3. And that's what he says. Okay, if I'm not going to get the money that I need, then I'm going to have to raise taxes on the rich. And they'll just keep leaving. All that tax revenue goes with them. And obviously the free busing, that's not going to happen. Free. He's already at 48% approval. You say, that's pretty good, Joe. You know what Eric Adams was at this stage of his first term? 61% approval. Same with de Blasio, another clown. So if he's already below the 50% mark, and we're only, 3 months in? It's only going to go down from here. It will not go up. And all the smiles and all the phoniness and all the social media clips that he puts up there ain't going to save him. Meanwhile, let's listen to more of Zohran Mamdani talking about the problem with socialism. And it's not the answer you think you would get. Cut number 7, go.
I have thought often of the Margaret Thatcher quote. The problem with socialism is that you eventually run out of other people's money.
Correct.
If anything, my friends, it seems that you eventually need a socialist to clean up the mess.
Come on. All right.
On January 1st, I told New Yorkers that City Hall would hold a singular purpose: to make this city belong to more of its people than it did the day before. For 102 days, we have endeavored to do exactly that, delivering both public goods and public excellence.
So let's repeat that one again, because it's really classic. It seems that you eventually need a socialist to clean up the mess, because socialism works great throughout the world when you look at socialist countries. How's Cuba doing? How'd the Soviet Union turn out? Venezuela. Want to go down the list? And people cheer this stuff. I don't know if they're just blind or they just crave change so much that they'll believe anything, or they're just dumb. I keep coming back to the D word. They're just dumb. If you don't know history, you don't read history. Thatcher is right. The problem with socialism is that you eventually run out of other people's money, and Zohran Mamdani is going to find that out in a hurry. Meanwhile, President Trump has a new nemesis, and it's not a Democrat. It's not somebody in the media. It's Pope Leo. All right. Eventually this was going to happen, I suppose. But Leo has been the one making the insults. And Trump always responds. It doesn't matter what title you have next to your name, especially Pope in this situation. Because in the end, Pope Leo is very outspoken against the Iran war, very outspoken about our immigration policies and especially deportation. Okay, you want to start this fight, go ahead. I guess you got God on your side. That's a good thing, I suppose. But again, I don't think our popes should be so political. Just worry about cleaning up the Catholic Church and getting more people back into church, and less about U.S. foreign policy and immigration policy. But nevertheless, here is President Trump firing back at Pope Leo, and he does not hold back. This is cut number 10. Go.
Why did you attack Pope Leo on Truth Social?
I don't think he's doing a very good job. He likes crime, I guess. He hit us. Think of it. He's worried about fear. What about the fear when the ministers and the priests and all of those great people that were arrested during COVID, and in many cases they're outside 10 feet apart, and they were arrested. So we don't like it. We don't like a pope that's going to say that it's okay to have a nuclear weapon. We don't want a pope that says crime is okay in our cities. I don't like it. I'm not a big fan of Pope Leo. He's a very liberal person, and he's a man that doesn't believe in stopping crime. He's a man that doesn't think that we should be toying with a country that wants a nuclear weapon so they can blow up the world. I'm not a fan of Pope Leo.
And Trump went on to say also that he likes MAGA Lewis, that Pope Leo's older conservative brother, loves Trump. He said he'd rather have him as the Pope than Pope Leo, who's a White Sox fan, which is a non-starter for me. I mean, sorry. But no, look, it's two men disagreeing. They're obviously very powerful people. But in the end, I just don't think it's the Pope's role to be this political against one country and especially one administration. I mean, today, Pope Leo said alone that he goes, I don't fear the Trump administration. It sounds like he's on MSNBC or something, you know? So anyway, leave that one there. Meanwhile, other people of the cloth are getting political. In this case, this is Cardinal McElroy. He is the Washington, D.C. Cardinal. And this guy goes on 60 Minutes and starts going off on, you guessed it, Trump. I mean, let it speak for itself. Cut number 9, go.
Cardinal McElroy, we are speaking in a church here in Washington, D.C. that serves a largely immigrant population. The pastor asked us not to share or publicize this parish name or location. What's he worried about?
He's worried for his people. They live under fear, and thus our mass count at the Spanish masses in our archdiocese went down 30% from the year before. 30%, that's a lot. And it's all fear.
Before he became Archbishop of Washington, Cardinal Robert McElroy served as the Bishop of San Diego, one of the busiest stretches of the southern border for illegal crossings.
I feel it got to a point where it was getting out of control.
Under Biden?
Under Biden, yes.
You believe in strong borders?
Yes.
So what's wrong then with the current policy?
This is a roundup of people throughout the country, people who have been living good, strong lives, been here a long time, raised their children here, many of their children born here, and are citizens. That's what our objection is.
But this was discussed during the campaign. It was widely discussed. And yet President Trump won the Catholic vote over Kamala Harris handily, 55 to 43%. He promised to secure the border. He talked about deportation, and a majority of Catholics voted for the policy.
I would like to know what Catholics feel about this indiscriminate mass deportation. I think that it's very clear the American people are saying, we really didn't vote for this.
Oh, no, they did, Cardinal. They absolutely did. And polls still show that a majority of Americans support not only deporting illegals who came to this country and committed crimes, but all people who committed the crime of breaking into the country without doing it the proper way. And it's just amazing that the Cardinal is embracing open borders here at this point. That it said, I want to know what Catholics think of this policy. Well, I'm Catholic, and I'm pretty sure that I like it, and a majority of Americans do as well. Again, why are cardinals talking about this stuff? Oh, because it affects his church attendance, which is down 30%. Well, I'm guessing that 30% that aren't coming are probably in the country illegally. Okay, and by the way, ICE isn't running into churches and rounding people up. That is a falsity, and of course 60 Minutes doesn't make that point there. But yeah, all this stuff. It's a weird time we're living in. No question about it. Anyway, this is Joe Concha. This is the Joe Concha Show at night. Back with so much more in just a moment.
Where liberalism is a no-go. The Joe Concha Show, weekday edition. Sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. This is the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition, sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Here's Joe Concha.
Welcome back, everybody. So The View is considered to be an ABC News program. In other words, ABC has an entertainment division, maybe a comedy division, and a news division. Somehow The View doesn't fall under comedy or entertainment, but craptastically under the news division. Last week, they went off on a conservative woman who says that Americans aren't having enough babies. And it's true. We are now at the lowest fertility rate. This was in 2025. Since these stats were taken, lowest in history. Less and less people are having babies. More and more people are not getting married. More and more, especially young people, say they'll never get married. And maybe that's an affordability thing, because the whole having a house with the white picket fence and a dog named Daisy, it seems to be out of reach for more and more people. We're now a country of renters, it seems, and very few people have any actual net worth in terms of, I should say, less and less people. And it just seems that folks would rather just stay in their phones and be married to social media apps than to actually share their lives with somebody and raise a family. I mean, now we're barely averaging more than one child per family at this point. In the 1960s, that was close to 3. So that's a big problem for this country, obviously, because when older folks retire, there's not going to be young people to pick up the mantle. Now you say, well, maybe AI will take over, those jobs, but I'm sorry, the family fabric is one of the things that makes America great. It just seems like more and more you just have angry young people who want no part of even socializing, like touching grass, getting out, seeing people. Anyway, The View went off on this conservative for making that very simple observation about having more kids. Well, Alyssa Farah Griffin came back today from maternity leave where they all celebrated her new baby. So I guess it's okay for her, but it's the help that she has in raising this child is really just the money quote of the day. This is cut number 16. Go.
But more than anything, we are thrilled to have Alyssa back.
The conservative on the show.
I'm a human lighter, but he is here. He is with us. Little Justin is the most magical thing. All of you who are moms told me, they said, they're like, your brain chemistry changes overnight, and it is so true. Like, my world just feels more magical and full, and I'm just so grateful to him. I do really quickly want to thank my amazing husband. I mean, unbelievable. You see the best in your partner in, like, traumatic labor. But also, they say it takes a village, and I have the best nanny at home, Maria, and night nurse, which is such a blessing. Teresa, who I hope is watching. I could not be here today at work doing my job without them. And also shout out to nurses who are literally angels and scrubs.
Okay, and that's true. That's true.
Just the best.
But Philip, we'll end it there, Phil.
You're all amazing.
You got that, right? The night nurse and nanny, or else Alyssa couldn't be at work. I work in television in addition to doing this radio show. I've been on shows like, and still do, go on shows like The View. We have something called the Big Weekend Show on Fox, which goes on for 3 hours, not one like The View. And I can tell you that it's not hard. All right? I'm not being braggadocious, but for Alyssa to have a night nurse and a nanny, so she could do a 1-hour show of 5 hens talking around a table. And their producers do a lot of the work for them. When Sunny Hostin or Joy Behar or Whoopi throw out all these stats, it's from a very liberal producing base that makes sure that they have those notes right in front of them. Anyway, this is Joe Concha. This is Concha at Night. We're back with so much more in just a moment.
The Joe Concha Show, weekday edition.
Joe Concha.
Sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Here's Joe Concha.
All right, everybody. So the Eric Swalwell saga continues, and I knew this would happen. I knew it couldn't just focus and by it being media coverage on Swalwell, who is the biggest douche in all of Congress, perhaps in our country's history. Let's play an example of this before I get to my main point. I believe this is cut number 23, and this is Swalwell. He did this video of himself pumping iron. It was 135 pounds, which I was doing, I think, 12, 13 reps of in 7th grade. So not exactly a lot of weight. But also, he would just do the most cheesy, cringe-worthy, horrible videos. You know, he was like called the king of Snapchat at one point, some glowing profile on him. That was done about 10 years ago because, boy, he really masters social media. But yeah, listen to this. And again, this is just really hard to listen to. Cut number 23, go.
I should be working right now. I should be at the Capitol. I should be in a suit.
Well,
instead, Republicans sent us home because they would rather stand up for Donald Trump than release the Epstein files and stand up for victims. We could be at Washington, D.C., lowering your healthcare costs, lowering your grocery costs, and restoring your rights. I should be working right now. Instead, I'm pumping iron at the gym.
An adult human being consciously and intentionally put that out there. And it's just him pumping iron. So to get to my point, I knew that Swalwell would quickly be given the whataboutism treatment when it comes to Trump. And this is what happened on CNN. And again, because of that ridiculous E. Jean Carroll trial, where E. Jean Carroll said that Trump had groped her in a Bergdorf dressing room. And I wish I could tell you what year it happened, but she doesn't remember either. Not like I don't remember the day, not even the month, not even the year. She comes forward because George Conway, another wonderful human being, basically told her that she had to do this. And there are rumors out there that the DNC also convinced her to go forward with these allegations, which, of course, in a New York courtroom, Trump was found guilty, even though there's no evidence, no video, obviously, no police report. I'm sorry. If you say you were sexually assaulted, why didn't you go to the police at the time? She didn't. It was the most ridiculous suit ever, and she somehow won. But here's Ron Brownstein on CNN doing exactly what I predicted they would do. We're not going to play the whole cut here, Phil, but we'll get to 17 right here. Go.
Well, there's a fundamental difference between the parties in the way they've
handled sexual assault issues.
I just look at the speed at which Swalwell unraveled and was forced out of the race with pressure from fellow Democrats. I mean, Donald Trump had 2 juries, in civil cases, adjudicate that he had committed sexual abuse, I think is the phrase under New York law, defame someone by denying it, and there was nothing like that on the Republican side, and that does not only reflect kind of views of elites. I mean,
for starters, the speed in which Democrats moved. This behavior has been an open secret in Congress, in D.C., even among some in the media for years. So don't tell me about that. The reason why Swalwell got taken out now is because Democrats have a big problem in California. They have this ridiculous jungle primary where the top 2 candidates advance from the primary to the general, with the thought process in California that, that will probably mean a Democrat going up against a Democrat. Well, since the state has been run so horribly by Gavin Newsom, the Republicans are leading in this jungle primary. Steve Hilton, my former colleague, and over at Fox, and Sheriff Chad Blanco are leading in the polls, and then Swalwell was third. So Swalwell, all these allegations just suddenly came about, and Swalwell is now out of that race, which the thought process, the calculation appears to be that, okay, the Democratic votes will either go to the profoundly horrible Katie Porter, who doesn't treat people very well, or to Tom Steyer, a billionaire who, boy, I thought the Democrats were against billionaires being in power. Well, anyway, so that's why all this is happening now, because that primary is coming up in early June. But anyway, let's play this wonderful clip, shall we? Because getting back to E. Jean Carroll for a moment, and the fact that she said this on the air to Anderson Cooper on CNN, and Anderson got so nervous because she sounded insane and was completely sabotaging her own case that, boy, he couldn't get to commercial fast enough. This is cut number 18. Go.
You don't feel like a victim?
I was not thrown on the ground and ravished. Which the word rape carries so many sexual connotations. This was not sexual. It hurt.
But I think most people think of rape as it is a violent assault. It is not.
I think most people think of rape as being sexy.
What?
Let's take a short break.
Think of the fantasies.
We're going to take a quick break. If you can stick around, we'll talk more on the other side.
You're fascinating to talk to.
I mean, you ever hear Anderson Cooper stutter like that before? I mean, he knew exactly what she was saying. Now, here's the thing about this case. They would not allow that interview to be entered in as evidence. And oh, by the way, what she described was exactly the same as a Law and Order episode, like almost to the T. But if you want to I mean, this was the final straw. And I'm writing a book right now called 99 Americans We Could Really, Really Do Without. Toxic. Okay, something along those lines. And E. Jean Carroll, trust me, gets a full chapter and then some. Because she goes on after she's awarded more than $80 million that Trump has to pay to her. Here's what happens. She goes on MSNBC to Rachel Maddow, and you tell me if this sounds like somebody who was sexually assaulted when she talks about what she's going to do with the money. Cut number 19, go.
You've talked about using some of Trump's money that you're about to get to help shore up women's rights. Do you know what that might be, what that might look like?
Yes, Rachel. Yes.
Tell me.
I had such great ideas for all the good I'm going to do with this money. First thing, Rachel, you and I are going to go shopping. We're going to get completely new wardrobes, new shoes, motorcycle for Crowley, new fishing rod for Robbie. Rachel, what do you want? Penthouse? It's yours, Rachel. Penthouse and France? You want France? You want to go fishing in France? No?
Fishing.
Oh. All right. Okay.
That's a joke.
Yeah. Hilarious. All right, Bill, that's good. Rachel Maddow, of course, laughs along with all that. You want to go to Paris? You want to go fishing in Paris? You want a penthouse? If you were sexually assaulted, you're not joking about what you're doing with the money like that. No shot this ever happened. And you know, you heard about how Trump was found guilty of denying it and defaming E. Jean Carroll. Well, I would do the same thing if somebody falsely accused me of something, or again, couldn't remember the year it happened and did it during a political campaign when Trump was running for president because George Conway persuaded her to, hoping that, you know, well, Americans would never elect a sexual assaulter as president, except no one bought it. And that's why Trump won, and won quite easily. And just to get back to Eric Swalwell for a moment regarding all of this, there are now mailers going out, the ultimate trial balloon, of people asking if Kamala Harris should run for governor of California. Because with Swalwell out and with her name recognition, she probably can get 20% of the vote, which would be good enough to get to the general election. And then if it's a Democrat versus a Republican in California, the Democrat usually wins, even Kamala. So just a reminder of who Kamala Harris is exactly. This is her trying to explain how to solve inflation. And again, we dodged a nuclear Scud missile with this person not being elected. This is cut number 6. Go.
What else are you going to do to fix this problem with inflation?
All right, thank you. Well, let's start with this. Prices have gone up.
Yes.
And families and individuals are dealing with the realities of that bread costs more, that gas costs more.
Yeah, okay.
And we have to understand what that means. That's about the cost of living going up. That's about having to stress and stretch limited resources. That's about a source of stress for families that is not only economic, but is on a daily level, something that is a heavy weight to carry. So it is something that we take very seriously, very seriously. And we know from the history of this issue in the United States that when you see these prices go up, it has a direct impact on the quality of life for all people in our country. So it's a big issue, and we take it seriously. And it is a priority, therefore.
I mean, there's one time my sophomore year where we had to do an oral exam, surprise oral exam, and there's a minimum time limit that you have to get to in answering a question. That was that. That's what we just heard. She explains that when the cost of stuff goes up, then that may affect the cost of living, and that may be a bad thing. Again, she was asked, how do you solve the inflation crisis? This is when she was vice president under Biden. And that was the answer that she gave. I mean, probably the stupidest person to ever seek the presidency or any office, perhaps, for that matter. So that is Kamala Harris. Meanwhile, Democrats are aligning themselves more and more with Hassan Piker, the guy who said that America deserved 9/11, calls Jews inbreds. That is an actual quote. A guy who really thinks Hamas is really, really cool as well. You know, the terror group that carried out the biggest massacre of Jews since the Holocaust. So the Obama bros, these are former speechwriters for Obama that now have this podcast, who have this thing for putting Hassan Piker on their podcast a lot. Jon Favreau, who's the host here, not the guy from the movies, but he asked Piker, hey, do you really support Hamas? And here was his answer. Again, this is who Democrats are running to get on this guy's podcast. And this is what he said in answer to this question. Cut number 20, go.
So my question is, when you say Hamas is 1,000 times better, do you actually mean that? Or is that a rhetorical move or like a solidarity signal? Like what?
I mean, it's all of the above. I do mean it. I think it's a rhetorical move because it frustrates a lot of people. I've also said I'm a harm reduction voter. I'm a lesser evil voter, and therefore I would vote for Hamas over Israel every single time.
Oh, okay. Hamas killed babies and old women, everybody that it could. Kidnapped people, kept them for more than 2 years in some cases. Raped men, women, children. And this guy thinks they're 1,000 times better than Israel. And this is who people like Ro Khanna. He was on his podcast recently and said he would do it again. AOC's gone on his podcast. Piker was at Mamdani's victory party. They're good friends. All right. You guys want this. Go right ahead. And the reason why they say they want to go on his podcast because, well, he reaches people that we normally can't reach. Do you have any friggin' integrity? Where this guy at one point said that what's happening in Gaza is worse than the Holocaust. I mean, this is some screwed up stuff. And again, the more provocative you are in this world, apparently, the more invites you get from Pod Save America, like the Obama bros just extended to that guy. Anyway, speaking of genius politicians, this is Abdul El Said, who is not running for, mayor of, some city in Jordan. No, he's running for the Senate in the state of Michigan. And this guy is a real piece of work because he thinks that ICE has nothing to do with immigration, apparently, because, well, Michigan is nowhere near the southern border. Therefore, they don't have an illegal immigration problem. Yep, this guy actually wants to be a senator. It's cut 14. Go.
Everybody who has looked at this honestly understands that ICE has nothing to do with the southern border, has nothing to do with immigration. Because, I don't know, I learned maps. Minneapolis, nowhere near the southern border. Michigan, where they're setting up, nowhere near the southern border. This is about weaponizing a paramilitary force against the Constitution itself.
I mean, and he could win. I would hope not Michigan. Michigan's this purple estate that exists out there, and you can't possibly take this stuff seriously. That I guess only illegal immigration is a problem in Texas or Arizona or California because those are border states, and they don't actually aren't going to other parts of the country, including places like, I don't know, Dearborn, Michigan, or Minneapolis, which you can't even tell the difference between Minneapolis and Mogadishu at this point. So I've heard dumb arguments around why ICE should be abolished. That's got to be the most craptastic, to use my favorite word. So Abdul El Said, Michigan Senate candidate. Meanwhile, I love the fact that Swalwell, I mean, let's put it this way. If he got to the general and went up against the Republican, as good a candidate as I think Steve Hilton or Chad Blanco are, again, there's a lot of Republicans are smart enough to leave that state. There just aren't enough votes out there. It's like being a Republican and running for mayor of New York. You're going to lose by 40 points like the guy who's run the last 2 times has. But the point is that this is cut number 12 and I'm sorry, 13, excuse me, Phil, 13. And this is what he would have done if he was governor as far as ICE agents are concerned. And this is some pretty warped stuff. We've dodged another bullet here. That's certainly for sure. Cut number 13, go.
To me, if you're going to run around our state masked and not showing yourself, not showing ID, and terrorize women, then you should not have a driver license. The governor has the power to grant driver's license in any state, and I call it reveal to wheel. If you're going to go into our communities in a way that no other law enforcement agency does, masked and, as I said, as a terrorizing bandit that women are afraid of, then the governor should revoke your driver license and really go on offense and restrict your ability to harm people.
So by Swalwell's own rules, if you terrorize women, then he shouldn't have a driver's license because apparently several women have come forward and these are credible, detailed allegations. This is the complete opposite of E. Jean Carroll with Trump. That's certainly for sure. And yeah, he would have taken away the driver's licenses of ICE agents. This is some pretty screwed up stuff. And he could have won, but now he's gone and probably will be expelled from Congress in short order if there is a God. Anyway, let's go to Jim Acosta before we go to break, because Jimbo, I don't know if he's just the world's worst salesman or he actually believes his own BS. But I really think that he believes that he is a serious journalist. This guy who just talk about the Me Too movement. He was Me Too. Like, look at Me Too, Me Too. All the questions that he would ask of the Trump press secretaries, all making it about himself, putting on a show. I mean, complete cheesy, like Skinamax at 3 o'clock in the morning kind of performance art. Well, here's Acosta on MS Now. Why they won't hire that guy, I'm not sure. Perfect for that insane asylum. Talking about how, maybe when I was covering Trump, I wasn't opinionated enough. What? Number 3, go.
Yeah, Ali, it's great to see you. There was a time when I was accused of being too opinionated in covering Donald Trump. I think maybe I wasn't opinionated enough. I think that might be the case. But Ali, it's a great setup that you laid out for the viewers there. I think we're in a situation right now where, I think we have to make it very clear to the American people, you can't speak truth to power if those in power can crush the truth.
What? Huh? Crush the truth? What? Is Trump not getting negative press coverage now? Pretty sure he is. But Jim's worried that CNN may go to the center, and that just can't happen. He said that he would fire Scott Jennings from CNN if he ran that place. Why? Because he's conservative and makes good arguments? Because he actually is probably the only person on that network that's actually interesting? So you'd fire him? Okay, Jimbo. So, this is a pattern, right? Chuck Todd, Don Lemon, Joy Reid, Katie Couric, Jim Acosta, Terry Moran, Chris Cillizza. All these people now are doing these podcasts from their kitchens. They're completely irrelevant. You keep hearing, they'll put out these numbers like, wow, I have 35 million clicks on it. No, you don't. You don't. No one is listening to these things. Friends and relatives, maybe. But that's it. And since they're not in the conversation anymore, they have money. So once you have money, you don't worry about having it. So what they want is relevance. They want to be part of the conversation again. And it's not happening for them. So congratulations. And it's funny because they all go on each other's podcasts. It's just this rotation that's just too good to be true. And then Acosta and Don Lemon once in a while will be invited to go on MS Now because, well, you don't even have to be E-list to get on that network. Anyway, this is Joe Concha. This is Concha at Night. We wrap this puppy up in just a moment.
This is the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition.
Joe Concha.
Sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. This is the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition, sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Here's Joe Concha.
Mr. President, did you post that picture of yourself depicted as Jesus Christ?
Well, it wasn't depicted. It was me. I did post it, and I thought it was me as the doctor, and it had to do with Red Cross as a Red Cross worker there, which we support. And only the fake news could come up with that one. So I just heard about it, and I said, how did they come up with that? It's supposed to be me as a doctor making people better, and I do make people better. I make people a lot better.
There you go. It's a picture of Trump healing somebody, and I guess there is some sort of photo out there of Jesus doing the same thing, and then it became Trump depicting himself as Jesus. Crazy stuff. Anyway, we're back tomorrow night at 9 p.m. here on WABC and on stations around the country. Until then, 2 words for you. Bye. Bye.